Hi. I wanted to talk a little bit about settings. I think settings in a story are really, really important. Because to me, when we live in the real world. We live here, and this world is a place. And when you're writing a story, whatever you're writing about, there's always somewhere. Even if that somewhere is nowhere or some fantastical land or imagined place, it's always somewhere. And that to me is incredibly important. Now, if you're writing a picture book, you're not going to spend a lot of time describing the setting. In fact, you shouldn't describe it because that's going to be in the pictures. That's the illustrator's job, okay? But it's still going to be a setting, and the setting will be important. Whether it's a castle or it's fairyland or it's a school or wherever it is, it's still an important part of the story, and it kind of gives the story a kind of some sort of structure, I suppose, in a way, or context. So I think it's very important. Now, to me, as a reader, I find it's really important, the settings and stories. Because if I'm reading a book, I kind of want to know what the world is that I am living in for the time of the story. Is it some science fiction world? Is it just a very ordinary world, but somehow an ordinary world that I can completely relate to because I see all the details of it? Okay, now some people don't like to describe the settings in great detail, and some do. I like to, and as a reader, I really find it helps me to engage with the story if I know where I am, if I know what the setting is, and if the writer has really made a big effort to draw me in and show me this world that he's created. But as a writer too, I find it really, really important. I find if you're writing a story, you kind of really want to know. To me, I want to know my story is set, and I want to be there. I want to feel it, and I always find I write much better about places, either places that are entirely imaginary or places that I've been to. I've recently set a story, for instance, on a crocodile farm, and this is a crocodile farm that I've been to, and it's a crocodile farm that like I said, visited many times, and I'd always thought, what a fantastic place it would be to set a story, and and kids really, really related to it, because they kind of loved it, such an unusual setting, and I was able to make it come alive because I knew that place, and I knew little details to put in. Now I'm going to show you something about. I think when you're describing settings, if you can get the details in, those little details, not using the cliches, the ordinary descriptions of places, but really that shows that you've been there, that shows that you really know this place, you're there. So look at this tree, for instance, I'm standing on, this very magnificent tree that I'm standing under today. I want to show you here, look. So we look at here, if we look at the bark, you can see this fantastic bark on this tree, and you might think of the bark here as thinking, if you were looking at it and thinking ahead, what does the bark of a tree look like? And I don't know if you'd actually come up with this. Look how kind of gnarled it is, and how it kind of protrudes all over the place. And there's little bits of greenery coming out of it. It's just quite a magnificent thing, and I think if you were just to describe that from your sitting room, maybe just trying to conjure it, maybe you wouldn't come out as something as interesting. But even look down here, I can see when I put this out. Yeah, there's a piece that comes off the bark. It's like a kind of jigsaw puzzle, which I think is great. I love that factor. And you just put it back in again, and this kind of stuff. And if I look over here, I can see there's this sort of knoll on the side. How gnarly it is. Look, this knoll is almost like nests. And it seems like out of this nest here, if you look really closely, I'm going to show you this, you can see there's these kind of little kind of almost twigs sticking up, but to me these look like little fingers. It looks like there's little babies in this nest, and they're poking their fingers out through the bark. That's the kind of thing, to me, I could use that in a description, and if I use that in a description, I think the reader would suddenly think, wow, that's interesting, and then they'd start thinking, that must be true. And this is the whole thing, we're trying to make the reader believe that our fiction is a truth. Right? And one of the ways you can do that is by making your setting really, really believable, even if it's the most extraordinary, most out-of-worldly kind of setting. It's kind of getting those details in that make the reader think, oh, well, he couldn't have known that unless he'd been there. They don't actually think it, it's kind of subliminal, but that's what I'm talking about. So settings are incredibly important, and really, really take your time to explore them.